Historia.
Moving that cat post thing just took the wind out of me. I don't know why.
I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
And welcome to the best podcast out there.
Oh, yes.
It's been rated that way by Benny. So, you're in the right place, friends. Episode 38.
I don't know what you're doing.
No, you don't. At all. Dun, 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 dun.
What's the time frame?
60s.
Area.
I can't tell you.
Country.
I can't tell you. U.S.
Vietnam?
No. I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
Anyway, any life updates, Jamie?
Oh yeah, the puppy. Did I already say that?
Well, I think last time you weren't sure if you were getting him.
Oh yeah, we got him. He's a 5-state. He's clinger. So clingy, but
he's so cute. He's a little fluff ball.
Yes, he is.
I posted a picture of him on our Instagram, so
the dogs are going crazy tonight.
Yes, we're gonna try to keep them quiet as much as possible.
Yes,
but they are hyped up.
Can't promise anything.
Yeah,
That's
no,
just how it is.
We'll see how it goes, but yeah, he's the cutest little fluff ball. So if you want to see a picture, look at our Instagram.
Yes.
What are you doing?
She's gonna try and make that.
He's just looking around. Our manager is a cat. So that shows you how serious we are. The only life update I have is I'm moving in 2 weeks.
That's good.
But yeah, I'm waiting till my roommates move out to pack because we don't have the space right now.
Yeah.
And they're moving out Tuesday, so we can make it happen. But 2 weeks from now, I'll be in my new house.
Does it feel weird, like moving out of the apartment?
Yes. I feel like I just moved in.
At least you'll be closer to your work.
I will, yeah. I'll be like 10 minutes away from my work, so that'll be nice.
That is nice.
I won't have to take the interstate home. Oh, glorious.
Oh, yeah. Gross.
I'm excited to have a backyard, so.
It's nice.
Don't have to take her out on the leash.
No, you just kick them out, be like, go.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm starting to train Remy because he kept having accidents in the house, and I was like, okay, we got to have a better system. So I bought the bells that we used for Layla.
Mm-hmm.
They're more legit because the bells that I used for Layla, I literally took a shoestring and just put bells on them.
I love it.
So this one's like an actual, like official, like bell thing that
nice.
I've just been like anytime I take him to go out, I literally just take his paw and like boop it and I praise him and then let him out.
Aw.
Hopefully he'll catch on like Layla did. But of course, with like a lot of people say that when you train them that way, they'll just keep ringing the bell because they want to go outside. And I'm like, fine.
Yeah, that's better than pooping everywhere.
Honestly. And I'm like, that's fine if you just want to go outside and do whatever.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead. But if it's like freaking thundering and raining out, like, no. But I also know that, like, well, you went out like 20 minutes ago. There's no way that you have to go again.
Right.
Because Layla would do that all the time because she's so freaking smart. But
you feel like it's easier to potty train when you have a backyard?
Yeah, because he knows, when I tell him, I'm like, go potty, he knows that already.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so it's just him separating inside from outside. Yeah, like that's where it's going to take a little bit longer, but like he knows, I know what she's asking me to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And he's already learning tricks, like, sit, he's learning lay down, he's starting to know, like, he is just like a clean slate of just like pretty much teaching him everything.
Oh,
it's just going to take a little time. I have to train them separately because they just keep wanting, like both me and Layla just keep wanting the treat.
That makes sense.
So, go figure. Here we are talking about our pets when this is a
What do you guys expect from us?
Honestly, we're dog moms.
When do we not talk about our pets though? For real.
I mean, pets are the new children.
Yeah, children are overrated. Get a dog instead.
It's popular. Our population, yes.
February's almost over.
Oh,
it's crazy.
So sad.
I think the worst time of year is January and February, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's been it was Tuesday and Wednesday, we were in the negatives.
Yep, it was horrible.
So it's not as bad as like, Wisconsin or Michigan, like they hit really bad negatives, but like.
It was freezing though.
Here, yeah, because the wind is just awful.
Yeah, and then next week is supposed to be like 65 every day.
What the fuck?
Welcome to Colorado.
Where you'll never know what you get.
Yeah. If you like all weather, move here.
Please don't.
Don't. We have too many people.
We just opened a Whataburger here in Colorado.
Oh, Lord.
My coworker waited 7 hours.
I would never.
He's from Texas.
That's
so,
crazy.
like, they love Whataburger.
Oh, yeah.
So he was like, yeah, we waited till, like, midnight. And then he came into work the next day, and I was like, dude, how are you functioning? He was like, well, I slept in late. And I was like, yeah. Go figure.
That's funny. Fun times.
Now let's segue into the topic, because I don't know how to segue, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, what were we just talking about? Sometimes when you're staying up till midnight in the Whataburger line, you look up in the sky.
We're talking about UFOs.
No.
Oh, thank God.
I'm going to be talking about the moon landing today.
Oh, shit. Ooh.
And all the conspiracies that go with it. So, well, I'll get to that at the very end. But, yeah, this is a fun one, because I know you're not a huge fan of space.
It freaks me out.
I love space.
It stresses me out. I had a guy at the Denver museum that they have. They have a natural section where it's like a bunch of like taxidermy type stuff, and then they have like a whole Egyptian section.
Ooh.
But then they have the space section, which has like a bunch of like Mars related stuff, just like space stuff, whatever. And this guy was like, oh, would you like to know more about like the universe and like how like spacious it is? And I was like, whatever, okay. And then he started explaining it, of like kept pulling out further and further, and it started stressing me out, because I was like, what is going on?
I love space. I always wanted to be an astronaut, but then I realized I'm not smart enough and I don't have good enough vision. So I did not do that with my life, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to work in mission control, where you can talk to people in space. I also think it'd be cool to like not, I'm not saying I want to go die, but like dying in space would be cool. Because it's like, you know, the last thing you see is the galaxy.
Just become William Shatner.
There we go. So, anyway, today I'll be talking about the moon landing.
Yay!
Woo-woo! All right. Now, I will say, this had a lot of science to it.
Oh.
And there were a lot of times where I was just like, huh?
Okay.
I had to, like, define, like, a sentence. It was like Michael Scott, where he's like, can you explain it to me like I'm 5?
Literally.
So I went from a lot of different like articles.
Yeah.
I watched a 2-hour documentary. It's on YouTube, and it shows you all of the footage.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So I literally just like sat there and watched it, and like I can't understand what they're saying because they're very smart. But it's cool to watch.
Yeah.
They show them taking off, landing, coming back. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, let's talk about it, shall we?
We shall.
I meant to say that as a question. Shall we?
That wasn't even on my top list of things that happened in the 60s. I was thinking, like, a civil rights movement.
That's fair. There was a lot that happened in that time.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, I feel like doing something for space. You're welcome.
I hope this is... You know what? It'd be actually pretty cool to cover the race to space, or race to the moon.
Yeah.
Sputnik and stuff.
Yeah,
like
I'm going to touch on it, but not a lot. But it would be cool to go over it more. So yeah, I'm actually starting with that. So, a good segue.
Oh.
All right. So, there was a space race that developed between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. And this happened after the 1957 launch of the first Soviet Sputnik satellite.
Cool. Rocket Boys.
Yeah. So we have a man named...
Sorry, Rocket Boys is not related to Sputnik, but they saw Sputnik. Sorry.
Is JFK's first name John?
Yes.
Great.
Wow.
I couldn't remember what the J stood for.
That's our presidents here.
All right. JFK, also known as John...
F. Kennedy.
What's his middle name? Just F?
Frederick?
That sounds right. John Frederick. Oh, no. All right. JFK. I feel bad I don't know his name, but, like, I knew Kennedy. Okay.
There's a lot of Kennedys.
He became president in 1961. Now, many Americans thought that they were losing the race for space because of the way that Soviet Union was like so much more technologically advanced. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of Americans were like, let's just give up. They're going to be first to the moon. That was their big goal. Who's going to make it first to the moon? Okay, so there were a lot of missions by the Soviet Union that worried the U.S., such as they actually had the first woman in space. Nice. And so when that happened, the U.S. was like, oh, crap, they're unstoppable now. But that's not the case. So in 1962, Kennedy made a famous speech, and he said specifically, we choose to go to the moon. So that was his way of saying, like, we're not going to give up on this. We will get there. Oh. All right, 1965. The Soviets guided an unmanned craft to touch down on the moon. So they reached the moon, but there was nobody in it. So it's kind of like, okay, congratulations.
So they just put like a rover there.
Yeah, it was just their way of like making sure they knew how to get there and like what they would need to do to get there.
Okay.
So they were the first ones to do that. But then once that happened, America was like, oh no. Let's step it up. So then NASA committed huge amounts of resources to the Apollo program, is what it's called, to get to the moon. So there were 400,000 people working on this mission. Jesus. Yeah. And they spent $25 billion on it.
How did they pay the people that?
I don't know, but they did. So the plan was to first just launch all the necessary hardware into Earth's orbit before striking out for the moon. So this whole thing is kind of confusing. I'll explain a little bit more later. But they basically have to drop a lot of different parts of the rocket itself and then like spin in the orbit. So I was like...
I know that part.
Yeah. So I'm like... Once I read that, I was like, huh? But then I was like, oh, I get what they're trying to say. I had to like look at it like twice. Because the scientific names, I was like, oh my God. Okay, but yeah, that happened. So the first crewed flight to try was Apollo 1. And this was in 1967. And as they were testing it, there was a big fire that swept through the command module and killed all 3 astronauts in it. So that was their first attempt.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. So they decided, let's just take a break for a few months. And that's what they did. And eventually, I'm going to talk about it now, we got to the moon. And it took 110 hours to get there.
Hey, what year was it?
For what?
When did they go?
69.
We're terrible.
I was going to make a joke about that too. Okay, so on July 20th, 1969, mankind's single greatest achievement of all time happened. I already told you what it is, so it's not dramatic. So this brings us to the Apollo 11 mission. So there were a lot of missions that they didn't work out, or they just couldn't go with them because of technical problems. Mm-hmm. So they had just kept having to retry. But brings us to the 11th mission, and this was the first to land on the moon. So it actually launched on July 16th, 1969, and it carried Commander Neil Armstrong. I thought his name, I used to think Lance Armstrong and Neil Armstrong were the same person.
Lance Armstrong is the
bike rider.
Okay, the cyclist, yeah.
But I thought, like, after he went to the moon, he became a bike rider. Like, I thought they were the same person forever. You guys are welcome for this.
Honestly,
and now
me
I'm
too.
teaching history. They sound almost the same.
I'm not very good with, like, sports people.
Yeah, same. I'm just not good with names, as names you can see. JFK. Hard. John Frederick? I don't know. All right.
Let me look it up. I'm very curious.
It might just be F.
No way. Not when you're that rich. No, you're going to have that prestigious name.
Frankfurt? Is that what you said?
John.
Something like that.
Okay, 35th. Oh.
What? What?
It's Fitzgerald.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy. But nobody's ever told us that before. How are we supposed to know?
Is anybody even named Fitzgerald anymore?
No. I don't think so.
Let us know if you are.
Yeah, if you are. That's awesome.
I'm curious. I was way wrong then.
So if you guys don't learn anything today, at least you'll know that the F stands for Fitzgerald.
Yeah. That actually will be pretty nice. Put that in your friggin' history papers.
I almost called him James Kennedy, but it was John Kennedy. Okay. It's too many men to keep track of. Okay, so anyway, back to the mission here. So starting over at my last bullet point. It launched on July 16, 1969. It carried Commander Neil Armstrong, not Lance, the command module pilot, Michael Collins. You don't hear much about him. Oh, yeah. And the lunar module pilot, Buzz Aldrin Jr.
Do you think Buzz Lightyear is based off him?
I think so. He's still alive.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
Yeah, good old Neil passed a few years back, but Buzz is still there. He's still kicking. He's like 92, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right, but anyway. Okay. People were freaking out about this, of course, right? They've been trying to get to the moon for years. So there's like 1 million people that are crowding around the area to watch it take off. Mm-hmm. People are like storming the beaches. The highways are just a disaster because everybody wants to watch it go up into the skies. Okay. So they also broadcasted it on television. So I told you guys I watched like all of it. It was really cool. I recommend it. And over 700 million people were viewing it on television. So we had people in all countries just like fascinated by it. What's going to happen? So it was a huge TV experience as well. This was the 5th Apollo mission to attempt to actually take off. And they took off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sorry. I just felt like saying it. 12 minutes later, it entered Earth's orbit. Ooh. Very fascinating. Now, this is where the science comes in, so bear with me here. After 1.5 orbits, it was pushed in the direction of the moon. So now it's going in the correct direction. There are 3 parts of the spacecraft. So we have the command module. It is the cabin area for the 3 astronauts to hang out, do what they need to do. And it's the only part that returned to Earth. Okay, so then we have the command module. So the second part of the spacecraft is the service module. And this supported the command module with power, oxygen, and water. So all of the things it needs to get up, basically. And then there's a lunar module. And this has 2 stages in it. So there's a descent stage for when it actually lands on the moon. And then there's an ascent stage to place astronauts back in the lunar orbit to come back. So eventually they lose it because they don't need it anymore to land. So 3 big parts of the spacecraft. I'm going to be talking about them as we go. So now you know what each one is for. Now, 30 minutes later, so once they actually do the 1.5 orbits, the lunar module was extracted and the spacecraft headed for the moon. And the actual rocket part was sent at a trajectory past the moon. Mm-hmm. And the reason for this was because they have a 3rd stage. And they didn't want the 3rd stage to collide with the spacecraft, Earth, or the moon. So sending it off this direction will allow the next one to not go in that same area, basically.
So what happens to all those old parts then?
I have no idea.
So they're just littering in space.
I was wondering the same thing. I'm like, so do they just like keep going around? Like, where are they at? It's very confusing. I think that's a part that didn't make sense to me.
You know what? Next time I go to the museum, I'll ask that.
And there we go.
Because I know I'll be going soon.
Yeah, there you go. So then it was thrown into an orbit around the sun, the 3rd piece. So that way, once it's going around the sun, it's not going to hit the Earth, the moon, and it won't hit the other spacecraft. Cool. So, yeah, fun times. Okay, so on July 19th, so 3 days later, Apollo 11 passed behind the moon and fired its engine to enter the lunar orbit. So now it's actually finding the correct direction to go into. The fact that it takes 3 days to like get in place, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But it orbited 30 times while the crew saw the passing views of their landing site in the southern Sea of Tranquility, about 12 miles southwest of the crater. Sabine D was the name of the crater. So they're basically just keeping an eye on where they want to land as they're rotating around to try to find the perfect landing spot. Mm-hmm. So the crater was selected because it was relatively flat and smooth. Yeah. So they knew if they landed on it, then it wouldn't be too rough of an experience. They wouldn't like break anything. Mm-hmm. So that was the initial idea. So it was flat and smooth, but it also was unlikely to present any major landing challenges. So they knew like it would be a safe place to land, basically. So July 20th, that means they were rotating for a whole day.
Oh my
so
God.
That's fun. Aldrin and Armstrong entered the Eagle. Now, the Eagle is the spacecraft, so that's what they named it. And it was the lunar lander that begun the final preparations for descent. So it lost the other parts of it, and now it's just that one part. Mm-hmm. So Michael Collins is staying in the command module.
So it's like the cone-looking thing.
Yes, it is indeed. So now they're preparing to descent. Dun, dun, dun. Now, 5 hours later, the Eagle separated from the Columbia. This is where the Columbia split, which is the command module where Collins was. Mm-hmm. So Collins was now alone aboard Columbia. Again, that's the command module. All right. Now, Armstrong said, "The Eagle has wings." So, you're welcome. Just in case you wanted to know that. So they were going too fast in the Eagle. They couldn't really control their speed just because they lost track of how fast they were going. Mm-hmm. So because they were going too fast, they were actually targeted to land a few miles west of their target point. So he was kind of like, "Oh, crap."
Yeah, just like that, Ruby.
Nice try, Ruby, trying to stand on our microphones.
She said, "Oh, crap."
Yeah. Oh, no. That's kind of what they were doing. They were like, Buzz? Exactly. Ruby's got it. Buzz, when are you going to land there? Yeah.
Extra. Buzz, when are you going to land there?
And he's like, "Oh, shit. What are we going to do?" So, oh, geez. Now, a lot of people think that after they've studied this with the fact that they were so off on their landing, they think that the problem might have been something called mascons, which is a buildup of too much mass on the moon, and it changes the amount of gravity that is happening.
What?
Yeah, so it would just change the Eagle's trajectory just because of how much mass there is.
That's wild.
Science! Science rules. Okay. A lot of people also think that it could have just been a lot of extra air pressure in the docking tunnel. And so they think maybe that's why they were going so fast. So, yeah. But anyway, they weren't trying to go that fast, and that's how they got a little off track. Now.
Should have put on the brakes.
Emergency brake. Now, that's not the first problem that happens as they're landing. So, 5 minutes into the descent burn, 6,000 feet above the surface of the moon, the guidance computer was distracting the crew because it kept having alarms that were going off. And they didn't know why this was. Oh. So they were obviously freaking out. They're hearing the alarms going off, but they're also trying to land at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a lot at once. So mission control is also confused. And they're trying to be it's okay. We don't know why it's going off. So there wasn't anything wrong. Mm-hmm. The computer was just going a little crazy because it's faulty. Right. And it's made to keep track of a lot of things at once. So it might have just gotten overwhelmed. But this was also, 60s. Think about a computer back then. So they told the astronauts to continue the descent. They're like, "Hey, don't worry about the alarms. We're trying to figure out how to get them to stop, but everything is safe. So just keep going." So the alarms basically, they found out later, indicated executive overflows, which again is just when a computer can't complete all of its tasks at once. And so it has to postpone the least important ones.
They should have put a second floppy disk.
Yeah, come on, NASA. Jeez. Losers. Oh my God. So the computer was made to get rid of the lower priority tasks and then reestablish the important ones. So it was just which one's important? What are we supposed to focus on? So that's why the alarm was going off. So a lot of people think the computer might have saved the mission because this allowed an actual better connection to mission control. Mm-hmm. And they were able to communicate with them better after the alarms. So the rendezvous radar switch was in the wrong position. I don't know what that is, but it is in the wrong position. So you're welcome.
It's funny because not anything like this that you read about in history and stuff.
Yeah,
none of it goes right.
I know,
Nothing
right?
is
it's always a disaster.
They make it seem like it's so glorified, but it's this had issues, this had issues,
Yeah.
this had issues.
Well, and people are watching. And so, like, everyone is so nervous at this point, trying, like, you're getting to the point where they're about to land. They know something horrible could go wrong. Especially, like, seeing that happen on TV. Yeah. Like, imagine just seeing it, like, burst into flames or, like, just, like, go into a dark hole. Like, that would be terrifying.
Yeah.
So, we wouldn't have Buzz Lightyear anymore. Okay, that was a dumb joke. Okay, so... Yeah, guys, the rendezvous radar switch was in the wrong position, obviously. And the computer was processing the data from both radars at the same time. So if you're a computer person and you wanted to know the specifics, there you go. All right, now, it was actually a bug that caused the alarms.
Like an actual bug?
No. Not like an ant, but like a computer bug. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a butterfly. I'm just kidding. All right, so Armstrong looked outside and saw the computer's landing target was in a boulder-filled area. So literally just an area with a lot of boulders. Mm-hmm. And it was just north and east of a 300-foot diameter crater. That crater was later called the West Crater. We gave it a name. How cute. So he was like, we are going to get there. That's a good place to go. So he took semi-automatic control. Now, Armstrong also considered landing on the boulder field because he knew that would be a good place to get geological samples.
Yeah.
So he's like, we can just collect those boulders. It'll be fine. But they couldn't land there since their horizontal velocity was too high. So again, another problem. So they're getting closer, though. They are now 107 feet above the surface, and they decide that it is time to land. So everyone's freaking out. They're like, oh no, are they going to land? Mm-hmm. He maneuvered the spacecraft toward a clear patch on the ground. This was actually the best area that they found the whole time, so it actually worked out really well. And the new landing site had a crater on it already. So they cleared the crater and found more level ground. And once they were 100 feet away from the surface, there was a lot of dust flying towards them. And it impaired Armstrong's ability to determine where they were going. So he's kind of just like hoping for the best. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that'd be so terrifying. There's large rocks just jutting out at them and like huge dust clouds. Like, oh, and you're in space. Like, that's just scary. Scary stuff right there. But Armstrong is literally focusing on where the rocks are coming from in order to figure out where to go and how fast they need to go. So he's like, if they're coming at him pretty hard, slow down. And then he can also see what direction they're coming in to know where the ground is. So he used it to help him out. So the Eagle finally landed. Wait, is this why people say the Eagle has landed?
Probably.
Is that what people say?
I don't know.
I feel like I've heard that before. That might be why.
Oh.
I think it's an expression. It may not be. I don't know. Oh, the Eagle has left the building? No. I don't know. I should stop talking. Okay, so...
It's like an Elvis reference.
The Elvis has... What is it?
No, I thought it was a king has left. I
don't know. Okay, but anyway, so the Eagle finally lands, and they decide to shut the engine down, because they're supposed to. At first, Armstrong was too excited and almost forgot.
Oh my God.
And it could have combusted any time.
Oh my God.
So they would have just been stuck on the moon. So then I was like, whoa. And then he was like, oh crap, should probably shut this down. So they ended up actually landing on Sunday, July 20th. And it was at 10:17 p.m. And I'm just going off of the time that it was in Florida when they took off. So it took, I think I said, did I say 110 hours or 101 hours? 110 hours. Yes.
That's a long time.
Yeah, long time.
But it's not that long as you thought it would be.
Yeah, no. But here's another problem that they had. They were almost about to run out of fuel. They were 30 seconds away. Yeah,
they bring extra, like...
Yeah, they were able to fill it up on their way back, but, like, they wouldn't have been able to make it.
Oh.
So they were, like, 30 seconds away from it all just going horribly wrong.
See, that's why you got over-prepared.
Yeah, so that's another reason why everyone was freaking out. Yeah. Because they knew about that. And they only had 216 pounds of usable fuel remaining. Dun, dun, dun. So, they had a premature low fuel warning, but they knew that they would be able to fix that for their way back. Mm-hmm. They later found that to be the result of the propellant sloshing more than expected. with all the dust particles and everything. And so later on in missions, they actually added extra slosh bottles. I don't know. They added slosh battles. Is that what it says? Boffles? I don't know. But they added things to prevent slosh from happening to the tanks to prevent this from going on.
That's smart. You gotta
slosh. Learn. That's a fun word.
Slosh.
Slosh. So yeah, they learned from it, which is good. And then he said the eagle has landed. That's why I thought it was a saying. Because he said that. Okay. But I feel like people still say that. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what he said when they landed. Said the eagle has landed. And Armstrong was, he had to go out first so that Buzz could kind of turn everything off and make sure it was all good in there.
Is that why Armstrong's the most famous?
Yes.
Aww.
Yes. That is why. He was the first one on the moon. So the mission control expressed how they were all terrified. They were like, we're all turning blue down here. I think that's what they actually told them. Because they all thought that they were just going to it was all going to go wrong as they were landing.
All 60s talk.
I'm just imagining them all in mission control, taking their hats off.
They don't wear hats there. They mess up their hair.
They might. You never
know. Oil-filled hair.
And this was when Armstrong was able to stand on the moon, and this was the first person to ever touch the moon. And he said, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." I feel like I sound just like him.
I bet he wrote those before and was rehearsing them before he was in the spacecraft. Okay,
looking in
front of a mirror.
It would be funny if he got to the moon and was like, "One giant leap for shit."
He has it on his hand. Let me read it.
He's like, "Hold on." He has to take off his gloves. He's like, "One leap."
Then you because you took your glove off.
That's horrible. We're joking about this, but it's funny. So I feel like he had to have that.
Sense, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't just go on the moon and not say anything cool.
Honestly,
imagine if he was just "I'm here." Everyone would just be okay. He had to say something iconic.
Yeah.
Know? So he did. He took that opportunity. He ran for it.
I bet they all had their own sayings ready. Depending, I bet they did rock, paper, scissors to see who goes out first.
I always just think of Collins. I know that the mission wouldn't have worked out without him, but he didn't even get to go to the moon. He's just there to help him out, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, what's his name? Aldrin, Buzz Aldrin, decided to join Armstrong. I think it was after 11 minutes. So he was finally able to come out too. And he's like, "Whoa, look at this." And they're just walking around.
I love the videos of them kind of just going back and forth.
It is really funny to watch. And so they placed an American flag on the moon. And this actually stood for the Apollo 1 mission that killed the astronauts.
Aww.
Yeah, I didn't know that's why. I thought it was just them being America. But no, that's actually what it was for. They wanted to honor that crew.
Did they keep it there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
She's still there. She should be.
I wonder how many flags are on there. It's China and Soviet Union?
Probably.
Or Russia.
I bet they'll go up there and just be take a flag off. Just throw it into a dark hole. Okay, so they literally just walked around the surface for 2.5 hours, just exploring it. I'm you might as well stay a while. It took you long enough to get there. So they're collecting different samples and taking a lot of pictures. I don't remember the exact amount of samples they took, but it was a lot. So they had a lot of things to bring back, and they took a lot of pictures. So fun time.
Selfies?
He's
with a big camera.
Yeah. So okay, Armstrong and Aldrin, they are gonna blast off back to Earth. Okay. And so they dock with Collins in Columbia. So this is when they are able to take off, and I don't know how specifically, but they're able to connect back to the command module. I don't understand how it just it's back together.
It's it's like Legos.
Yeah, I wish if I saw a visual, maybe it would help. But I tried to research it, and I was just very confused because there's too many words. There's too many science words, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm too dumb for this." I wanted to be an astronaut. That definitely did not work out, but it's good. And so they are going back to Earth. Whee! It takes 4 days to get back to Earth. And they splash down off Hawaii when they land.
Hawaii.
Yeah, so if you watch the video of them landing, they are literally in the middle of the ocean. And so they just bring up these, like, those boats.
Yeah.
And where they just, like, step out. And they're just, like... they're just in the middle of the ocean, just waiting. So cute. I love it. So they come back on July 24th. So... After that, men from Earth have now walked on the moon and returned safely. Keywords, returned safely. So they had a post-flight press conference, and Armstrong called the flight a beginning of a new age. So inspirational.
He has to have, like, a notebook filled with these.
Right? He's like, man, which one should I say today?
I mean, it works.
Yeah. And then Collins is talking about how he wants to go to Mars. And so he's talking about a bunch of future journeys to Mars. Fun times.
I don't think anyone has been on it.
They're still working on that. Space Force. We have the Space Force here now. It's so funny. Anyway. Yeah. So... The next 3.5 years, 10 astronauts follow their footsteps and make it to the moon. So we've only had 12 people step foot on the moon.
Dang.
Yep. And that is it. So just the, all 12 of them. And they all happen in the same, 3-4 years. I think eventually people are just kind of like, well, people have done it. We're good.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not like a race to Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's just a race to Mars between Elon Musk and everybody else.
It is. It really is. All right. So I'm going to talk about some conspiracies.
There's so many.
I chose the biggest ones that I felt like were they made the most sense, kind of.
Yeah.
But I'm also how can you just not believe it was real? I don't know. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, because my grandma watched it
on,
my dad was maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
When it happened, because I believe he was born in 66 or 65. No, my dad was born in 63. My mom was born in 66. Yeah, so he was probably about 7 or 8, but still, that's pretty young. But my grandma explained, she was yeah, it was such a cool experience to see it on the television, because you've never seen anything like that.
Right.
I can't imagine being in... They flew out of Texas or Florida? Florida.
Yeah.
So they were probably at the Kennedy Space Center.
They were, yeah.
That place is so cool.
I want to go there so bad. I've never been there.
I went when we went down to New Smyrna when I was maybe 12 or 13. God, those pictures are horrendous. But it was such a cool experience, because even then, I wasn't the biggest fan of space, but it was just so cool seeing just a lot of their spacecrafts, where they launched everything.
Yeah.
It was so
that cool. Is really cool.
My dad really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I feel like I would nerd out there and be like, "Cool, space!"
It is such a cool experience. But
yeah,
that's awesome.
So here's some conspiracies. Okay, so one of the biggest ones is that a lot of people notice there's no exhaust flame. So once it actually got to space, there was no fire coming out of it. Okay, this one's kind of dumb. They basically thought that it was a fake rocket in Hollywood. And so it was just a Hollywood set.
Wouldn't there not be any because of no gravity?
So basically, the lunar module used something that produces transparent gases once it gets to a certain, what's it called? Not elevation.
I thought it was elevation.
Maybe elevation, yeah. So once it gets to a certain point, then it's, because at first, when it first takes off, there is an exhaust flame. You see the fire.
Yeah.
So they just think that it went up, but it never kept going.
Oh.
They were able to cut the footage somehow. I'm really, guys? Nowadays, I could see how they could fake it. But I feel back then it'd be really hard to fake it.
It was. It's really, because they did, there's tampering of photos too then.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's been modernized to where those photos have been tampered from old photos.
Right. And so they were so you're not going to see an exhaust flame when it gets to actual space because it's transparent gases. So they debunk that one.
Boom, debunked.
You can say that after all of them. Yeah. All right. There was They also believe that it's crazy that there was no crater at the landing site. Once they actually landed, they didn't leave a mark. So it was a very heavy rocket. And so a lot of people thought, I think it was like, with the weight that it is in space was like 1,000 pounds, something like that. So they're like, how did that not leave a mark in the moon? Now, since it landed on dust, there's a lot of rocks underneath the dust. So it's not going to leave a mark when there's rocks underneath it.
Okay.
So.
I mean, yeah, because it depends on, like, what the planet or, like, what the moon is made out of.
Right.
I guess. And if it is, like, true rock.
You can't really imprint on it.
No.
So.
Did they literally think, like, the whole moon was just dust?
They thought there was just going to be, like, a dent. I don't know. I thought that was one of the dumber ones. Like,
debunked!
Yeah. And then some people were like, how are they able to use their footprints on the moon without moisture? So they're like, because you can still see the footprints today. Mm-hmm. So they're like, how are the footprints still there? Now, there's a little thing called friction, and friction allows the moon dust particles to hold their shape when moved around.
So it's kind of like the, what is it? Kinetic sand?
That's kind of what I thought of too. Yeah, I was imagining that.
Moon sand?
It's not going to move.
Moon sand!
Yeah.
Is that why it's called moon sand?
Oh my god. Holy crap. Wow. Mind blown. That's why they call it that, huh?
I don't know, maybe.
Because I think it's similar to that, because it's like, it's sandy, but it's not going to move around. There's not wind. So it's going to stay in one spot. To me, I'm like, I feel like it makes sense. But people are like, well, since it wasn't wet, how can you have a footprint? It's like, relax.
Debunked!
Yeah. One of the biggest conspiracy theories, I've heard of this one a lot, is the shadows. So people are like, how are there multiple shadows in the pictures? So they believe that there had to have been an additional light source, like a lamp shining on them in order to get those shadows in the picture.
Wouldn't there be a light on the rocket?
Well, it's from the sun, since they're like, the sun is right above them. It's the way that when they use the camera flash, the way that it like looks with the sun shadow, it adds more shadows to it.
Oh.
If that makes sense. So there was an additional light. It was the flash of the camera, but also the sun was right above them. So it's going to make shadows.
Oh, yeah.
You have to say debunked.
Debunked!
And then another one, I think this one's, like, really? People were like, how come there's no stars in the background of the picture? I was like, do people actually say that? The nearby objects washed out the film, so even if there was, like, if you could see something, you wouldn't see it in the picture.
I feel like people forget that cameras aren't what they are now.
Right. Yeah, you only see what the image closest to them is.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the background.
Whatever you have now, like your freaking iPhone camera, it's the quality was like 10 times worse than that.
Exactly.
It's like my mom's blurry photos. Like, that's how good it is.
Yeah. It's like the cameras from Walgreens.
Oh, yeah, the wind-up ones.
Yeah.
The disposable ones. Oh, I love those. Those are actually really fun because you never know what you're going to take. You could have the ugliest photos ever, and you think that you have the best ones until you actually look at them.
I remember half of mine was just like my finger.
Yeah. You just put it over your head.
Or it was like half of a picture, half of a finger.
Dude, some of those photos are real raunchy.
Gen Z will never know.
Nope.
Forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah, so that one, they were able to prove against. So.
Debunked.
Good job. Another one was they were like, how come they didn't get radiation poisoning? Because of where they went. So basically, in our solar system, we have Van Allen radiation belts that protect the Earth from harmful solar radiation. So people were like, since they passed through those belts, how come they didn't get the radiation poisoning? They basically, you can only get it when you've been in exposure to the belts for days. So because when they passed through, Apollo 11 passed through, it took them less than 4 hours to get through it. So that's why they didn't get poisoning. So.
Debunked.
Good job. All right. And then people are like, What about meteors? How come they didn't get hit by meteors?
Were there any in the area?
It's a very low chance of happening.
Yeah.
So it could happen, but it's a very, very low chance.
Plus now, especially now, they're going to prepare that. Like, they know ahead of time. But exactly. Of course, like, then it was, like, kind of unknowing.
Yes.
But, like, they still had enough advanced technology to be like, okay, this is a good time to go.
But, yeah, that's a very low chance of happening. Mm-hmm. So.
I mean, and I'm sure they had, like, a backup plan, too, if that was the case.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it would stop their whole mission.
No. Unless it was, like, bad.
Right.
Debunked.
Yeah, I was going to say with enthusiasm. I'm just kidding.
Are you going to do one about the flag?
That's the next one.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so another one is, and this is another really big one, the waving flag. They're like, in the pictures, it looks like the flag is in the wind. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how can it be in the wind? So they made it a wave, basically, right before the picture. They had made it move. There was a wire that was inserted in the top of the flag to keep it steady. And so when they put this in, it kept waving around to try to, like, get into position.
Yeah.
So the astronauts created a waving effect as they were setting it up. Oh. So they put it up, and then they immediately took the picture as it was still getting in place. Yeah. So that's why it looks like it's moving in the wind. But once it was fully planted, it stopped moving.
Okay.
So. Debunked. And those were the only ones I really focused on. There were more, but I was like...
Those are like the heavy hitters that people always talk... That you see in the TV shows, the documentaries and stuff that they cover are all of those theories.
I know Mythbusters did one. I remember watching it, but I don't remember... They were trying to break one of the conspiracies.
I thought it was the...
Was it the Shadow?
It was the Shadow... Well, I think they did more than one. I think they did the flag one and the Shadow one.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Have to watch those.
Yeah. I don't know what they... How they debunked them or...
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember that episode. Remember seeing it. I remember seeing it, but not like all the way through. It's kind of like those glance, like, oh, that's cool, and then move on.
Exactly. We watched so many of them, too, because our teachers didn't want to educate us.
Oh, my gosh, and chemistry.
She said, you know what, guys, let's just watch more of those Mythbusters.
They're actually pretty entertaining. They did one about the Titanic with Jack Rose to see if it could fit on him.
I think we talked about that in episode 1. I think so. Go back. But yeah, so that's the moon landing.
That's it. There's so many movies on it, too, that are pretty interesting that I would honestly like to watch. I know there was one that came out not too long ago of those three ladies.
Yes. What is that one called?
I don't know. If you know, let me know, because I cannot remember.
Not Hidden Figures, that was a different one.
It is!
Oh, it is that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the space one. Yep.
Because
that was a good movie.
They played a role in the moon landing, too.
Yes.
I've
been
wanting to watch that. But yeah, there's like a whole bunch of other ones, but...
A ton of movies have been made from it.
So many movies, so many documentaries. Like, it is one of the most iconic, I guess...
Yeah.
Space
events in history.
Yeah, honestly. It is, especially for the U.S. Like, that part of the U.S. history is very interesting.
Yep.
It's just, like, it kind of blows my mind, like, how crazy everybody went to get into space.
I know. I guess competition.
Yeah, and everybody's competitive in that way.
Right.
And, of course, it was during the Cold War, so they just wanted to beat Russia at everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, like, Russia were like, I don't think so. And then we're like, well, okay, we got to do something.
Bet.
Yep,
it was crazy. But, yeah. I learned today JFK's name.
Fitzgerald.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Oh, God. I really was just going to go with Frederick for the rest of my life if I didn't look it up.
John Frederick. I thought it was Frankfurt.
Frankfurt?
I don't think that's a name. Frankfurt, Kentucky.
Yeah, it's a town.
It's a capital of Kentucky.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
God, I am terrible with
I
US
only know because I teach, we do states and capitals chant in 5th grade. Say Frankfurt, Kentucky.
See, I cannot give you all the United States capitals.
There's a lot.
It's 50 too many.
That's fair. Anyway, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this very chaotic episode.
Oh, yes. It's been a whirlwind, but I hope you enjoyed the space theme one.
Yeah.
Let us know if you want us to do another one, because there sure as hell plenty of them.
There are.
You want us to cover about freaking Jeff Bezos' recent mission to the moon.
Yikes.
Please don't.
Please don't make us do that. But yeah. 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 You know what I mean?
Where can you find us?
Oh, good question. So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Historia the Podcast. We're still there. You can send us a Gmail at historiathepodcast@gmail.com. And we have new things.
What?
This is so exciting. We have a TikTok now.
Oh, God.
Which is going to be very interesting. So we'll be doing like behind the scenes stuff, and then like I have some other ideas that we'll be doing. So our TikTok is Historia the Podcast.
Ooh.
We trademarked it right away. TM. And then we also have a YouTube. So YouTube is Historia the Podcast as well. There's our link.
If you don't, good, they're outside. So if you don't want to listen to us on Spotify, but you have YouTube going.
Yes. It's not a video of our face, but you get to see a line that just goes wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
I really don't think you want to see our faces. Like, I am looking real rough.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get to that point at some point. Like
cameras are expensive.
Yeah. We'd have to invest in that. So, but yeah, if you want to listen there, you can comment on that too. You can like the videos. So,
it's gonna TikTok famous.
Yeah, go find our TikTok and follow us there. But yeah, it's gonna take a while for all of our episodes to be on YouTube. But right now we have the first 3, so super exciting. Yay, new things.
Yay.
I've kind of forgotten about our Twitter, so just
honestly, I have never had Twitter in my life, so I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's a lot. Maybe one day we'll have a Twitter. Harley keeps running to the window to see Ruby.
Oh, there's Remy.
The dogs are having a blast.
Oh, God.
All right.
Thank you for joining in. Stay tuned for next week. We got a 2-parter coming up, so 2 weeks of fun-filled topics.
She's just staring at me. Yes, it's going to be awesome.
Kylie
so stay tuned. I have no idea what we're talking about, but we're going to be talking about it for a while.
2 weeks.
Yep. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.